The wind that scraped across the Wyoming plains that morning carried more than just snow. It carried hunger, regret, and the bitter sting of choices long out of reach. The frost-bitten boards of the old farmhouse on the edge of Red Rock looked like they might collapse with the next gust. Inside, Henry Callahan sat by the dying heat of a wood stove, staring at the empty can of beans he'd split with his son the night before. He was only 39, but life had carved its years into his face, like a plow through winter dirt. A single dad since his wife's passing 2 years ago, Henry had worked the land, hauled lumber, and mended fences for scraps. His 7-year-old boy, Jesse, had never known much more than second-hand clothes and hard times. But Henry had something more valuable than comfort. He had a moral spine forged in the fire of love and suffering. He refused to lie, to cheat, or to turn away a soul in need, even if that left him with less than nothing. That morning, as Henry loaded up the pickup with firewood to sell in town, Jesse tugged at his coat. "Daddy, you think we'll get the heater fixed soon?" Henry crouched, brushing the boy's mop of brown hair from his eyes. "Maybe. I'll try to sell enough today." "Can we get pancakes too?" Henry smiled, though his stomach groaned from hunger. "We'll see. You be good for Mrs. Latham, all right?" She was their elderly neighbor who watched Jesse when Henry went to town. She had less than they did, but always made room for Jesse in her warm kitchen. As he drove the old Chevy down the snowy back roads, Henry saw something that made him press the brakes hard. A girl, barely 18 maybe, walking barefoot in the snow. Her dress was torn, her arms bare, and she clutched a pillowcase full of clothes. He stopped, rolled down the window. "Miss, you all right?" Her lips were blue. Please don't call no one. I just need to get out of here." Henry didn't ask questions. "Get in, you'll freeze." She hesitated, eyes darting like a hunted animal's. Then, she climbed in, shivering so hard her teeth clacked. "I'm Henry. Where you headed?" "Anywhere but back there." Her name was Emily. She'd been sold, in a sense, handed off by her stepmother to a trucker in exchange for rent money. She'd escaped at a gas station when the man stopped for beer. She had no ID, no phone, no plan. Henry didn't blink. He turned the truck around. "Where are we going?" she asked. "You're coming home with me. You'll be safe there." Henry pulled into the rutted driveway just as the clouds began to split open again, casting down a lazy drift of snow. Jesse was already out front, bundled in 2 thin layers, waving excitedly, but his smile faded when he saw Emily. "Who's that, Daddy?" "This is Emily," Henry said gently. "She's going to stay with us for a while. She needs our help." Jesse looked at her the way only kids can, without judgment, just curiosity. "You look cold. Want my coat?" Emily's lip trembled. "No, sweetie. You keep warm." They all tromped inside, where the air smelled faintly of wood smoke and desperation. Henry stoked the fire and fetched one of the flannel blankets his wife had sewn long ago. Emily sat near the stove, quiet, her hands outstretched like she was afraid to ask for more. "I don't have much," Henry said later, sliding a plate of fried bread and apples across the table. "But you're welcome to whatever we got." She ate like she hadn't in days. When she was done, she wiped her mouth and finally looked at him. "You don't know me. I could be trouble." Henry shrugged. "You're cold, scared, and hurt. That's all I need to know right now." Emily slept in the attic, under a patchwork of blankets. Jesse snuck up later to leave her one of his stuffed animals, a faded rabbit named Earl. By morning, Red Rock was buzzing. Small towns didn't need much to get talking, and a strange girl in the Callahan house was more than enough. Mrs. Latham warned Henry gently. "They'll twist it. You know how they are." Henry knew. Folks already whispered about him, about the cowboy widower raising a boy in a house with peeling paint and no TV. They'd say worse now. He went to the hardware store that afternoon, trying to trade firewood for parts to fix the heater. The owner, Frank, gave him a look. "Who's the girl?" Henry clenched his jaw. "Someone who needed help." "Well, folks are saying all kinds of things." "You be careful, Henry." He drove home heavy with the weight of rumors, but when he opened the door and saw Jessie helping Emily make soup, laughing like a kid who'd forgotten about hunger, the noise outside didn't matter. That night, Emily sat by the fire after Jessie was asleep. Her eyes were clearer. "My stepmom, she always said people wouldn't help unless they wanted something." Henry didn't look up. "She was wrong." Emily's voice cracked. "Why are you doing this? Really?" He finally looked at her. Then, not as a stranger, but someone familiar in grief. "Because once, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. My wife. And because my son's watching, I want him to grow up believing the world still has decent people in it." Emily didn't speak for a long time. When she did, it was a whisper. "I never had a dad like you." Henry turned away because his eyes were stinging. The snow didn't let up for days. It coated the world in silence and suspicion. Inside the Callahan farmhouse, warmth returned, not from the barely working heater, but from something deeper. A rhythm began forming. Emily helped with the cooking, learned to split logs with Henry, and played board games with Jessie, who adored her like an older sister he never had. But outside their home, the world was stirring. Mrs. Latham dropped, by one morning, eyes heavy with concern. "Henry," she said, peering past him toward the house. "The sheriff came by my place asking questions." Henry tensed. "What kind of questions?" "About Emily. Where she's from, if she's really safe with you." "I never laid a hand on her. You know that." Mrs. Latham touched his arm. "I do. But you know what folks are like when they see a young girl living under a man's roof. They see sin, not mercy." Henry leaned against the doorframe. "I'm just trying to do what's right." "I know. But right's not always safe, Henry." Week later, the sheriff himself paid a visit. Sheriff Dobbs was a good man once, before politics twisted his backbone. He pulled up in a new cruiser, boots crunching on the frozen dirt. "Morning, Henry." Henry stepped onto the porch. "Sheriff, got a call from someone in town. Said you're harboring a runaway. That true?" "She's not a criminal. She was sold, abused. She ran for her life." "I get it," Dobbs said, sighing. "But there are laws. She's a minor." "She's 18. Barely. She's still got no ID, no record. No family willing to vouch for her." Henry folded his arms. "Then I'll vouch for her." Dobbs looked him over like he didn't know what to make of a man who'd rather risk everything than throw someone out. "You're playing a dangerous game. Keep her here and child services might come knocking. Or worse, her stepmother might come looking." That night, Henry told Emily the truth. "They might try to take you." Emily was quiet. "Then I'll run again." "No." His voice was firmer than she'd ever heard it. "Not this time. You don't have to run anymore. I'll protect you." She looked at him with an expression that broke his heart. Not fear, but disbelief, like no one had ever offered to fight for her before. But the past wasn't done chasing Emily. Late one night, a pair of headlights approached the house. A beat-up van, plates from out of state. Henry stepped onto the porch with his rifle slung low, not raised, just ready. A man climbed out, grimy, heavy-set, and drunk. Behind him, a woman with cold eyes and a cigarette clamped between painted lips. "Where's the girl?" the man slurred. "She's ours." "No," Henry said quietly. "She's not." "She's got nowhere else, cowboy," the woman sneered. "She's ours to do with what we please." Emily stepped into the doorway behind Henry, trembling, Don't let them take me, please. Henry didn't turn. You're not touching her. Get back in your van. The man stepped forward. The rifle came up. You take one more step, Henry said, his voice like stone, and you'll be picking buckshot out of your legs till spring. The couple stared him down, but they saw it, the fire in his eyes, the line he wouldn't let them cross. They left. Inside, Emily collapsed into his arms. Why would you do that? She sobbed. You don't even know me. Henry held her close, shaking just as much as she was. Because you deserve better than the world gave you. Emily's breath hitched. You're the only man who's ever said that. And in that moment, something in her heart began to heal. The sheriff came back 2 days later, this time with a suit from the county and a woman from Child Protective Services. Henry met them at the gate, shoulders squared like a man ready for a war he didn't want. We got a petition from the girl's stepmother, Dobbs said, looking tired. Claims you're hiding her. Claims she's mentally unstable. Henry's hands curled into fists. You saw those people. You really think she's safer with them? The CPS agent, a weary woman named Miss Bradley, held up a file. Legally, we can't just ignore the claim. She's not on record anywhere. She doesn't have a birth certificate or school record we can verify. You're not her guardian. I'm her protector, Henry said. That's enough. Not by law, she replied. I'm sorry. Emily stood behind the window watching. Her hands trembled at her sides. She'd heard this kind of talk before. People deciding her future like she was a stray dog to be put down or sent off. Miss Bradley asked to speak to Emily alone. Henry nodded once, reluctantly. Inside, they sat at the kitchen table. Jesse played quietly in the corner, pretending not to listen, though his small fists were clenched in fear. I know you don't trust the system, Miss Bradley said gently, but we need to understand where you belong. Emily's voice was flat. I don't belong anywhere, but I'm safe here. Do you feel like Henry pressures you? Threatens you? She almost laughed. He's the first person who didn't want something from me. What about your feelings toward him? Emily's eyes lifted. He's not my father, but he treats me like I matter, and I'd rather live in this cold house with nothing than go back to people who treated me like a thing. Miss Bradley scribbled something down, but her eyes were soft. That night after they left, Henry sat by the fire, silent. They're going to take you, aren't they? Jesse asked, his voice cracking. Emily knelt in front of him, wiping a tear from his cheek. Not if I can help it. But Henry knew the law didn't care about kindness, and that scared him more than anything. Later, when Jesse was asleep, Emily came to him, quiet and pale. I should go. No, Henry said. You don't have to. They'll take Jesse, Henry. You heard what they said. If they think you're unfit, they'll take your son. Henry's throat closed. She was right. I can't be the reason he loses. You saved me. Let me save you back. He shook his head. I won't let you go back to that. I'm not. I'll go somewhere else. Start over. And maybe someday, I'll come back. Henry's voice broke. You're family now, Emily. She smiled, tired, sad, and somehow stronger than she'd ever been. Then let me protect my family. Emily was gone before sunrise. She left a note on the kitchen table, scrawled in nervous handwriting, tear-stained and barely legible. Henry, I didn't run away. I walked toward something better, for all of us. Maybe one day we'll find each other again. Tell. Jesse, I love him. You saved me. Let me carry that forward. Emily. Henry read the note 3 times before folding it into his wallet and slipping it behind a photo of his late wife. He didn't cry, not right away. Just stared out the window, watching the wind carve circles in the snow. Jessie found him like that and climbed onto his lap. "Where's Emily?" "She had to go away," Henry said softly. "Did I do something wrong?" Henry pulled him close. "No, son. She did something right." 3 months later. Spring crawled into Red Rock like a shy visitor. The snow began to melt. Birds came back. But Emily didn't. Henry went back to hauling wood, fixing fences, doing odd jobs. The heater stayed broken. He didn't have the heart to fix it anymore. Jessie didn't ask about Emily often, but when he did, it was always the same. "Do you think she's safe?" "I hope so," Henry would say. "She's strong." But strength wasn't always enough. One afternoon, a letter arrived. No return address. Henry opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a note and a photograph. The note read, "Dear Henry, I found a women's shelter that helped me get my paperwork sorted. I'm learning to be a nurse. They said I'm a natural caretaker. I tell them I learned from the best. Please don't worry. I'm okay. One day when I've built something of my own, I'll come find you. Give Jessie a kiss for me. Emily." The photo was of her in a nurse's aide uniform, smiling, alive, free. Henry stared at it for a long time, then showed Jessie. The boy beamed. "She's gonna be okay." "She is," Henry said. "She already is." But the story didn't end there. 6 months later, Henry got a call from an unfamiliar number. "Is this Mr. Callahan?" a voice asked. "Yes." "This is Leah Martinez. I'm a caseworker with the state. I've been handling a file related to a girl named Emily Hart. She listed you as an emergency contact." His stomach clenched. "Is she all right?" "She's more than all right, sir. She's nominated you for legal guardianship." Henry blinked. "What?" "She's 18. She doesn't need a guardian, technically. But she's filed a civil claim against her former stepmother. She wants to change her legal name. And she wants to list you as her father on all official records." Henry sat down hard. I never asked for that." "She said you didn't have to. You earned it."